bum, 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 bum. You like that, right?
Love it.
You love that? All right. I have just landed in San Francisco, and a guy that I don't think we ever talked live, right?
No. We talked by email.
A lot of email and a lot of text messages. And Ben Perry from Sports Meat Beer podcast. That's hard to say, actually, Ben Perry.
Yeah, it's the meat's like the protein. That's what I always tell people.
All right, very nice. And also Lagunitas, right?
Formerly of Lagunitas, but yes.
And considering the truck you just picked me up in, I think you did well on that sale, my friend. Good for you. But I've been flying all day. I just, like I said, I just landed in San Francisco. And then, of course, we have to wait 30 minutes on the plane because it's so windy in New York. They can't turn the plane around that I was on. So they had to park this JetBlue plane in a special area and get buses to get us to the terminal. So we had to wait, about a half hour for the buses. We finally get on the buses, and the bus goes 100 yards, Ben Perry, 100 yards. And then everyone starts laughing like we could have walked this and saved a half hour.
That's San Francisco for you.
Yeah.
I tell you.
And then you found out I was coming out here. We're going to be hanging out with, I guess, a bunch of people from the Food Network and Guys Grocery Games, right?
Yeah, they're going to be filming a tribute episode, for Carl, and it's going to be pretty special. I mean, that's I've heard a couple of things. I don't want to spoil it for any viewers, but it's going to be a great dedication show, and then we're able to go and check it out and be on set for it.
And hopefully I'll podcast around it. And then we got a couple parties out here for Carl. So Guy Fieri. I'm starting to say Guy Fieri because that's how Carl said it. I mean, it looks like it's Guy Fieri, though. I don't get the T in his name, Guy Fieri. But Carl would go nuts every time I mispronounced Guy's name by saying Fieri. But he personally invited me, and I said, of course I'll be here, man. It looks like it'll be a nice celebration of life for Carl.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of the folks from Food Network that worked with him over the years, some of them couldn't make it out to New York, some of them couldn't make it out to Florida for all of his memorials, and I think this was probably the best way since they just started shooting for the next season. Yeah. Now all of them are in town, and it made sense. They got some of the guest judges are back. It's gonna be a great celebration.
And I've lost track, but I think this is the fourth memorial I've done for Carl. And and then after this, I mean, no offense, but I'm like, all right, I think I'm done with the memorials. And then Gloria is working on another gig. Pig Island in Brooklyn. They're doing a giant celebration for Carl, and that's going to be on November 16th, I think. And I think all is invited. So the memorial tour continues for Carl Ruiz.
It's almost like the goodbye tour for
Kiss.
Kiss is still doing their goodbye tour.
It's funny you should say that. So I've been doing radio my entire life, and I went to the first Who goodbye tour in 1989. Was their first goodbye tour.
Yeah, I was in junior high at that time, but I think I remember those goodbye tours, and then it just kept going and going and going, and then Kiss started doing their run.
Yeah.
And every classic rock band has done the exact same thing. They run out of money and they go, now let's do another tour.
Yeah. And it doesn't even matter if the main band members die. They just grab someone else off the street and they just continue with the name. They don't give a fuck.
Just like Journey. You got that little Filipino kid and he sounds just like Steve Perry. Put him out there.
Yeah. and I think he makes about $100 a show, which is a lot of money for where he comes from. So the band is loving the fact that he sounds just like Steve Perry.
Yeah.
By the way, I just realized that you definitely are Ben Perry from Sports Meat Beer because I recognize the voice because I listened to your podcast. And you also did a couple podcasts with Carl when he would come out here and film grocery games.
Where we did the IPA beer review. We did that. I just re-listened to that one today on the way down to pick you up.
Well, the first one you guys did about IPAs was excellent. It was actually episode 2 of the OpieRadio podcast.
It's hard because, when you're talking about all the tribute shows, like eventually that page will turn and we'll move on and we're not going to forget him, obviously, but we will begin to start the healing process. But these little, he's got amazing one-liners in these things. I mean, his flow and his delivery was top notch. I mean, you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Yeah.
And so to go through there and to pull out little gems once in a while, just even like 30-second little clips.
I got so much audio of me and him. I honestly don't know what to do with my podcast at this point. I know I want to continue, but it's tough because, I was really enjoying doing it with Carl. We had great chemistry. And more importantly, it was just so much fun. I didn't care how many people listened to this thing because I just knew I was having a good time and he was having a good time. So I do know as I move forward that I will be sprinkling in a lot of audio from Carl that a lot of people have not heard. Some really hardcore fans heard it because we were doing Facebook Lives and stuff like that. But a lot of the people that listen to this podcast probably haven't heard it. Speaking of which, the last episode of the podcast, I did just that. I found our trip to Rochester, New York in 2017. I wanted Carl to meet Brother Ruiz badly because Carl always reminded me of Brother Ruiz, like a younger version of Brother Ruiz, a street guy with just incredible knowledge.
Right.
And Carl had that, obviously, and so did Brother Ruiz, and I couldn't wait for those two to meet. So we did a whole Facebook Live driving up to Rochester. Then we were drinking tequila on the roof of a hotel, and then we were doing radio for 2 days with Ruiz, and it was all just on Facebook Live. And I'm like, you know what? I should just release this as an episode, on the podcast. So I was editing it, and I called Billy DeTore, who's Ruiz's producer. I go, yo, could you send me, the audio of us on the air up there? And Billy's like, yeah, no problem, and he sent me a whole bunch of segments, and I start editing it. And Ben, I got to tell you, I'm laughing my ass off. We're having so much fun. Ruiz is into it. Definitely really good radio. Lots of laughs. And then out of nowhere, you probably even heard this by now because it was on the last episode, but out of nowhere, Brother Ruiz asked Carl, he goes, what's the lifespan of a chef? And Carl all of a sudden changed his tune, said most chefs tap out by 50. They either got bad knees or they die from heart attacks or drugs or something like that. And then got real serious and said to everybody in the room, I figure I got 2 years left. And everyone went, wow. You could feel the air was just taken out of the room. And then thank God we said, what are you, 48 years old? Doing the math, getting Carl to 50. And then we all laughed, and that was the out of the bit. But I forgot that he said that, and as I was editing that episode and that came on, I went, oh my God, I screamed for my wife. The hair on the back of my head stood up, and I played it for her, and she's like, man, he just knew something. Yeah. Oh, I should explain, by the way, that was August 2017, and he said, I figure I got 2 years left. He died, obviously, September 21st, 2019. So he was off by like 3 weeks.
It's spooky. And, he, as everyone, we've heard all the episodes and everyone talk about how he knew a lot about everything, who knew he could be so prolific, and who knew, none of us took it seriously, right? You think, okay, yeah, Carl, you're just being silly. Why would you say that? You got so much left, so much life left. Look how much you inspire other people and things like that. And little did we know, he knew more than we did, obviously.
Yeah. So take me back. How did you and Carl meet?
We were in a bathroom. Just kidding. Back when Fieri won the Next Food Network Star competition. So when he won that, he was out in New York filming some other stuff and filming other episodes and follow-ups to that. And that's when him and Carl had met. And as soon as they met, obviously their relationship sparked, and they really, really, a lot like you guys, when two heavy hitters can meet and sparks fly, you have to do something with that. And so he moved out to California to help out with Guy, to help out, just facilitate some things, and was just out here for a while. And all of a sudden, as I was the beer salesman for the company, for all of Guy's restaurants, here I am dealing with Carl, and next thing you know, we're doing shots, next thing you know, we're having beers, I'm the beer guy, dropping off beer to his house, and everything in between. And then all of a sudden, it just, as everyone says, like all of a sudden you're friends, and he made me feel special, made me feel like we'd known each other for years, and it only been a few months. And then, fast forward all these different years, all these different times, and every time he'd come out to Santa Rosa to film grocery games, I'd get the call. He'd call me up when I'd go pick him up on set. We'd go out, we'd do what our boys do, and then just continue to have some fun with it. And then in the last 2 years, him and I started working on more and more stuff, and he came on the podcast, and he gave me shout outs on back when you were on Sirius XM, and he just did so much, so much for me that I never even asked him to do. He just did because he was a believer. He believed in Ben Perry, and that was awesome. So, and then we worked on all these, like, those silly food brackets and the beer brackets and all that stuff.
No, those brackets were awesome.
Yeah, we talked about a couple of the Twitter fans talked about trying to relive and bracketize some of Carl's best moments. We had the idea, and we still kind of thinking about it. I don't know. It's hard to say which one's the best.
Sorry, what I was going to say is I would give it a little time, and then you should absolutely do the brackets in his honor, whether you redo some of the same topics or come up with a few new ones. I think a lot of the fans would really appreciate that.
Yeah.
For the people that don't know, on Carl's social media, he did best beer, he did best
the fast food bracket, the best cereal bracket, the best candy bar bracket. It was great. And then, what's funny about the beer bracket, about 2 weeks later, Barstool Sports comes out with the best beer bracket.
Oh, I saw that, man.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Interesting.
And you're polite. That was bullshit. How about that,
yeah.
Ben Perry from Lagunitas?
I called them out. I shouted them out a couple of times on Twitter. Obviously, they're Barstool Sports are going to do what they want. But I thought for sure, I'm like, you guys absolutely you saw the momentum that we had. And Carl was so interactive on Twitter. I think that's what made it so special for everybody, because he went lightning rounds on these things. They lasted an hour, and people, if you stepped away from Twitter for 6 hours, you missed 6 rounds of that bracket, and that mattered to people. People wanted to do it. I couldn't wait for this one. I couldn't wait for that one. It was so much fun, and I was at one of my son's basketball games, and I'm sitting there looking at Twitter, trying to watch basketball, look at Twitter, and Carl's like, "You got to update this sheet." I'm like, "I'm 20 minutes from the house. I'll be right there. Hold on."
I'm counting on you to bring that back in his honor. You got it.
I will, for sure.
You got
for
it.
sure.
And you've known Guy Fieri for Fieri for a very long time, huh?
Yeah. So back when before he was on TV, and he only owned 1 or 2 restaurants up in Santa Rosa, an hour or so north of San Francisco. We began our.
By the way, sorry, because you said, "Hey man, when you get to California, I'll pick you up," and you were hinting that I should fly into Oakland. And I was looking at layovers that I did not want to deal with. And I'm like, "Hey, Ben, I'm going to fly into San Francisco. Is that okay?" And you're such a nice guy. You're like, "Yeah, that's cool. It's about the same distance."
As the crow flies.
It's not even close. But I got a nice, nonstop flight from New York to San Francisco. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's So I've known Guy for a long time as well. And we go back quite a ways. And we have... We've got a few stories that probably shouldn't go on the podcast, but I can't say enough nice things. He's done a lot for me personally, professionally. He's done a lot for my family. Just nothing but. That's why every time I see someone's talk shit about him, it always pisses me off. And I'm like, you have no idea how nice he is. You have no idea what he would do. He would jump in front of a bus for you.
Well, that's the problem. You get to a level of fame, not that I'm there, and you got to deal with a lot more bullshit.
Hold on a second. You're telling me you're not there?
No, I'm not in Guy Fieri's range. Maybe I was coming close before I blew up my whole radio career.
Well, I tell you, now that there's so many options, because there was when you were in your prime or in the beginning of the boom of O&A days, there was no Food Network, there was no extra cable channels, and the idea that people were willing to pay extra for your channel just to hear you talk. It's got to be flattering.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing.
And I think you were there. I think you were there.
Yeah, I made it to the mountaintop. It's okay. The view wasn't as great as I thought it would be. I kind of like being back in the valley. But Guy Fieri, we've talked a lot since, Carl's passing. And, man, the guy is as genuine as they come. And he was thanking me. He's like, early on in my career, I would go on your show and you gave me nothing but respect and you actually helped me and my brand. I'm like, God, you're crazy. You were well on your way when you first stepped into my studio. But what he gave me was the gift of Carl, He would come by with Carl. And, man, Carl was so funny right off the bat hanging with everybody in the room. It didn't matter who was in the room that day. Carl was, if not the funniest, very close to the funniest every single time. And then, Guy would come through Sirius XM, and he'd be a busy, busy man, and he would stop in when he could to our show. But there were times his schedule wouldn't allow it, but he would have Carl tagging along, and I would grab Carl, and he would tell me, dude, you're going to get me in trouble with my boss. And I'm like, I don't care. I love what you could do on a radio show. So he gave me that gift. And then the other thing, and that's, I'm just tagging what you said, how great of a guy Guy Fieri is. When I got fired from Sirius XM after being there for 14 years, 15 years, whatever it was, Guy Fieri was one of the first people to call me. And he basically said, Ope, whatever you need, I'm there for you.
Yeah, I can't tell you, there's been times where, I'm thinking about a job change or thinking about something, and I'll text him, call him, bounce something off of him, and he always shoots me straight. He does not pull any punches.
No.
And just, tells me, but also too, just like Carl, he is a great cheerleader for you. Like, if you have the slightest bit of doubt about yourself, about something, maybe I shouldn't do it, maybe I can't do it, man, it's like he had missed his calling as a motivational speaker, and thank God, because he's a far talented chef and TV host. But man, he just would. I mean, you walk away and you feel like you're floating on a cloud. And Carl would do the same thing. Carl would. He would be able. He would just be your number one supporter right then and right there, and he would not waver. He would, nope, I'm all in. I'm all in on Ben Perry. I'm all in with this person. It doesn't matter who it is, and it. Goddamn, makes you feel good.
Yeah, I felt that right away, and then I was suspicious because I'm not used to. I'm being serious. Yeah, I'm not used to that from people in general. So, Guy Fieri is definitely the real deal, and man, Carl is gonna be missed. I feel like I'm the mistress though, because Carl was very close to Guy Fieri and very close to me, and I feel like Guy Fieri was his wife and I was his mistress.
You were the side piece.
Oh my God.
Well, unfortunately, it sounds like that might be the case.
He
but
would walk off podcasts. I'm like, where are you going? He goes, Guy called. I gotta, he's leaving from the airport in an hour. So long. Hope the rest of the podcast goes well. He's invited me on that plane over the years, and I've never taken him up on it. And he goes, what the hell's wrong with you? I go, I don't want to bother you.
Well, I tell you, I have not had the invite extended on the new plane, but we did fly. We got to do a Vegas trip.
Nice.
And one of the funniest things, Carl wasn't there, but I had an inner channeling of Carl. We're sitting at this table. We were at Guy's restaurant down on the Strip, and we're sitting there talking. There's a table full of people. There's some NFL people there. There is some business folks there, about 7 or 8 of us, and I'm there. And so the conversation of watches comes up, and everyone is sitting there, and they're talking. All of a sudden, it's Rolex this, Rolex that. This guy's got a Rolex. This guy's got this. And everyone's talking about these high-end watches. And here I am. I do not belong at this table, number one. Number 2, the watch I'm wearing looks fancy, but it is a piece of junk. And so as they're getting around the table, I slowly start to undo my band on my watch, and I slide it off my wrist. And as soon as the momentum of the table conversation gets to me, I just throw my watch out into the street on Las Vegas Boulevard, and they all look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, trust me, it's for the better. And I knew Carl would be so pissed if he saw me at that table wearing that watch, so I had to get rid of it. I had to just get rid of the evidence and move on.
He was trying to get me into watches. I got a nice Rolex when I got married, and I don't really wear it because I have these thin, skinny wrists. And Carl finally, when he saw my wrists, he finally gave up, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think a watch will look good on that dumb arm of yours."
That sounds about right. Yeah,
it kind of bummed him out though. But he taught me about the watch culture, which is beyond fascinating. Because stupid me, I'm like, why do you need a watch? The time is on all our phones. It's stupid to wear a watch. And boy, did he set me straight.
Oh man, his knowledge and his passion about it. I mean, that's the part too that was just so uncanny, is that you would figure, someone would. What are you doing?
Jump! 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 They're yelling back at me. We're on the Golden Gate Bridge, everybody. And Carl's not here to get very uncomfortable, so hopefully Ben Perry's very uncomfortable.
My ears are red, I can tell you that.
Jump! Jump! Oh, I see. Oh, no, you can jump over here.
Oh, yeah, now you can't.
Jump! Golden Gate Bridge, bitches. I got to interrupt you, though. One of my favorite documentaries of all time was based on this bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. It was called, The Bridge.
That right, we just passed the spot where the movie concluded. But that's an amazing.
With the guy in the long black trench coat, and didn't he jumped backwards, right?
Yeah,
that is a rock star.
If you're gonna go out, I mean, the balls on that guy, because everyone, I mean, obviously the way if you haven't seen the documentary, it's been 15 years. Get it together.
Oh, that's okay. Can I set it up though, and then we can talk about it? So, because I had I think it was the director, and then I had one of the guys that actually jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived on my radio show at the time. But basically, these filmmakers talked the city into allowing them to set up cameras on both sides of the bridge. And they were filming like 24 hours a day. And basically, I think they told the city of San Francisco that we're doing a documentary or a project on traffic.
Yeah.
And they bought it. And basically, they knew that so many people were jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge because it's a destiny for people that want to commit suicide. There's places in the world where people actually go to kill themselves, and the Golden Gate Bridge is right up there at the top of the list. And also, I think the Suicide Forest in Japan. That's another documentary that's worth checking out, because
this bridge, people jump off this every day.
Yeah.
There's someone jumps off every day, and so they quit, and that's why the
wait, is it every day?
They say every day someone jumps off.
That's 365 people a year. You sure it's that many?
That's the latest stat.
Wow. So the bridge, they set up these cameras saying, oh, no, we're doing something on traffic. And they caught so many people during this documentary ending their lives. And then the filmmakers would go and talk to their families and stuff and get to know the people that jumped and why they might have done it. And some of the reasons were, almost acceptable. And other reasons were like, he was such a normal person. I don't know why he would have done this. And then there was a guy in the documentary that they did film that survived, and I got him on the phone, and I asked the question I think everybody would ask. I go, what did you think as soon as you jumped? And he said, and it gave me chills, he goes, I thought immediately, I don't want to die, why did I just jump? And he's lucky enough to tell that story because he survived.
Yeah, that was crazy to hear that. And then the way they built that movie up, and the character, you figure, okay, this is the next character, and the story just unfolded. And when the guy finally jumped, it was such, like, you figure, oh, it's someone jumping off a bridge. This was so different. I mean, how could you make that different? This guy made it unbelievably spooky, scary, exciting, everything at the same time, by jumping off, leaping backwards.
Yeah.
But I think the other interesting part to that documentary is it really started talking about mental illness before mental illness was always, mixed up with gun violence and mass shootings and things like that. They really started addressing, like, hey, there's a problem in this country, and this is why are people jumping off this bridge every day? Like, we have to solve that.
Yeah. I was listening to you. That's a little of the jet lag kicking in. No, you weren't boring. Trust me, I'm a little tired.
I swore you nodded off on that.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And in New York City, we got our own bridge, the George Washington Bridge.
Yeah.
And they bury those stories, but in the paper it'll be like buried in the middle, like just a little paragraph talking about how they found a body at the base of the George Washington Bridge in the Hudson River. So we have our own problem over there, where there's more people jumping off that bridge than people realize, but nothing like the Golden Gate. Are you sure about that number, one a day?
That's what I hear. That's been that number for years, and it might have declined slightly since. I mean, they did put a suicide prevention spot on there, and they have way more security on the bridge than they've ever had.
So they probably knocked the numbers down a little bit.
Yeah, but even if you cut it in half, I mean, that's still a staggering statistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't been to San Francisco in 9 years. I love it out here.
Well, you definitely caught the weather on a perfect day. I mean, there's literally no fog. It's, 70 degrees out right now. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this.
One of my old college roommates, he lives out here. And I came here a few times when I was wandering the earth, when I was fired, and had to sit out like almost 2.5 years for the old Sex in the Church bit we did. Fast forward a whole bunch of years, I'm married, and I couldn't wait to bring my wife out here. And we went to Muir Woods and Coit Tower and Alcatraz, oh my God, and the stupid crooked road and all that. But the funny thing is, my wife wasn't feeling well when we were out here. And I was like, all right, what do you want to do? First, you want to go to Alcatraz? I think it's one of the most amazing places to go if you want to be a tourist. And you want to go to Coit Tower, you want to go here, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, no, I want to go get a pregnancy test. I'm like, what? We ain't doing anything. We are going and getting a pregnancy test. So long story short, I found out I was going to be a father right here in San Francisco.
Oh, and that's got to hold some special memories back here.
But anyway, so then we find out, and I'm like, then also I'm like, all right, that's cool. We're going to be parents and all that. So I'm like, all right, what do you want to do? So you want to go to Alcatraz? And she's like, no, we're going to the bookstore. And then she bought I don't even know, every book on being pregnant.
Oh man, yeah, once I picked you up from the airport, we kind of figured out we have kids around the same age.
Yeah.
So probably figuring out right around the same time that we were pregnant, and that the same books were being bought, the same pattern of, all right, now we got to just dive into this, and that's everything.
Yeah.
And us guys were like, okay, cool, we'll deal with that in 9 months.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's just keep going. We got stuff to do. And then we all make the dumb joke of we have a designated driver for 9 months, which there's nothing more than a pregnant woman loves than watching their husband get drunk at parties and weddings and then have to drive them home.
It's really embarrassing that we have absolutely nothing to do when they're pregnant.
No, nothing.
It's really, it's so uncomfortable. They suffer and go through everything. And the best you could do is, run out for takeout food and rub her feet or something?
Yeah, that's...
it's not fair.
No, and it's not that for a lack of we wouldn't want to do more. It's just there's nothing we can do physically. So we just we dumb it down and go, okay, whatever you need. And yeah, we try to rub your feet, but inevitably it's either too hard, too soft, too hot, too cold. It's never right. But their bodies are going through so many changes.
And then all their organs get squished deep inside their cavity. It's insane.
Their cavity.
And then this stupid earth.
You should do a YouTube video on explaining this to children.
Yeah.
The cavity.
I don't know. Look, you got a punch drunk me right now because I'm really tired. I got up at 5:30 and it's, I don't know, I think it's 7 o'clock New York time, so whatever. Yeah. But what was I going to say about the prank? Oh, and then this stupid earth of ours, they look at women as almost second-class citizens. And I'm the one, I guess I am a feminist because I'm the one going, women are way stronger than men.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, if and when you meet my wife, you'll see right away she is far and above, stronger, smarter, faster, better. I honestly don't know why she's doing with me. She's way better than me. But it's just like with everything else, with the yin and the yang of a relationship, you need I guess she needs brawn. Yeah. That's the only thing I can offer to the table is I can lift things, and I'm a little bit taller.
Well, I got a theory on brawn. So you got to go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and men with their stupid egos finally said this is bullshit and just started lifting boulders so they at least had something on women finally.
That's the only way we can get the upper hand.
Right.
Oh Jesus.
Just yanking trees out of the ground, anything to just build up a muscular body, so maybe then they would then maybe they would be looked at as more powerful than the female species.
Oh man, yeah, we're definitely we're just, even if you dumb it down to remembering birthdays and anniversaries, they're so much better at that than most men.
Yeah, but that was the last time I was in San Francisco, and that Alcatraz is just so cool to do, man.
That's like the top 5 thing I tell people when they come to San Francisco. You got to do it. And it's, now you have to buy your tickets weeks in advance. It sells out. It's hard to get a tour out there, and it's always packed.
For real? If you just fly into San Francisco and go, I want to go to Alcatraz tomorrow, you can't do that anymore. No. That wasn't the case last time I was out here.
Yeah, it's pretty popular, and it's affordable, I guess, but it's one of those things where people just look for so much to do, and it also does take up a lot of time. It's a day.
Well, it's also a really nice boat ride in the bay. And then they got boats going back and forth all day long. So besides doing the Alcatraz thing, what am I, a tour guide? No one cares about this. You could, you go there for a little while, check it out for a couple hours, and then you jump on, a ferry back to the mainland.
So once we get into town, because we have a loose agenda, what's the first thing we're going to do? What do you want to do first?
Sleep.
It's going to be too early for sleep.
Oh, really?
Well, you can do a cat nap, I guess, but...
am
I getting you edibles? Did you bring your own? What are we doing with that?
That is so funny you just mentioned edibles. First of all, I don't do... do you think I'm a pothead? The little you know about me?
No.
Yeah, because I'm not.
It's recreational.
I recently did edibles before he went to Carl's memorial at his restaurant La Cubana because Matt Farrer from the Smoking Tire was in town. Matt is also going to be up here, and I'm going to answer your edibles question, by the way, because it's so funny you mentioned that. So Matt, found out I was coming, and I go, you should go. You should go. Everyone would love to see you, and me and him will do some podcasting too, and you're going to do a lot of the podcasting with me this weekend. Matt goes, screw that flying into San Francisco, flying to LA. I think he said he's got the brand new Porsche that he got permission to drive from LA. I hope it's a Porsche. He's going to kill me if I got this wrong. But I guess a brand new Porsche, he got permission to drive it all the way to LA, and then he's going to do a podcast or what he does on it. And he goes, come on, don't be a pussy, fly in LA, and then we'll drive the Porsche all the way to San Francisco and beyond, obviously, because we're an hour and a half north of San Francisco. And I said, there's no way I'm doing that, man.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds great if you're driving. It sounds horrible if you're a passenger.
I hate to admit it, I'm not a car guy, which drives him nuts. I got friends that I drive nuts. Like Carl was really into watches, and I wasn't into watches. My other friend, Matt Farrer, is really into cars, and I could give two shits about cars.
Hey, that's it. But you have to have those kind of people in your arsenal. Yeah. You got a car guy, a car guy.
Plus, I'm a pussy. Man, I said I'm a feminist, and I'm using the word pussy a lot. That's not good, is it?
I got no problem with it.
All right,
I don't
object. All right, good. So the other thing is that I think I'd be really scared when he opens it up and really starts, driving really fast. I don't know if I could handle that.
Well, he's not just an average driver.
No.
I mean, he's driven, some of the most exotic, awesome, crazy cars around, so he knows his way around a car. I would feel uncomfortable driving with him.
Yeah.
I mean, mainly because my pants would be off, but I would definitely be worried, especially on a Porsche, especially up and down, the coastal highway. That, I don't know, it just doesn't sound as fun as maybe he thinks it is.
And then he's professionally trained, and then I think it's okay to say this. Then he goes, I did some shopping for you. And I'm like, what is this? And he sends me a picture. He's got like a really good handful of gummy edibles. and I'm like, I am not flying back to New York with edibles. No fucking way am I taking that chance. Exactly. And then once again, he called me a pussy.
Well, yeah,
He goes, just mix them up with, we'll repackage them and stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, because that's all you need is trafficking charges to carry it back and forth between states. Right. Repackage it. Come on.
And it's not like just 3 or 4 little gummies. It's a whole handful of all different types of candy and stuff. So I'm not doing that either, Matt Farrer.
I got nothing to say on that.
It's fine. There's no way I'm doing that. The fastest I ever was in a car was a Lexus.
We have a racetrack out here, and I've done you hop in and ride with someone who's a trained person, but we had helmets on and you were like 5-point harness, the whole deal. That sounds doable. Hopping in a factory car with a factory seatbelt doesn't sound that safe, especially with I don't know Matt Farrer, but I'm gonna guess he drives like a Hellcat. So
I would imagine. So the Lexus story. Remember when we were talking about my career and how I was on the mountaintop? All right. So when I was on the mountaintop, Lexus came to me and Anthony, and check this out. They go, "Hey, we want to give you guys the brand new Lexus."
all right.
I think it was for I want to say it was between a week and 2 weeks. They're like, you could do whatever you want with it, and then we're going to do commercials on your show, and obviously you talk about your experience driving the Lexus. So on the Long Island Expressway, out there on Long Island, I opened it up to 110 miles an hour.
Ooh, okay.
I was scared shitless. But I wanted to go over 100, and then I was so scared. Next thing I know, I'm over 110 or right around 110.
Yeah, those cars back then, they got up quick.
Yeah.
They were really responsive.
And then the other thing I did with my free Lexus, I used to be a big skier, so I went up to, I believe it was Killington. I drove the Lexus up there. It's a front wheel, driving car. So it was just sliding the whole way up to Vermont, and I had to get it towed to the condo I was staying in because the road was too snowy.
You didn't think about putting chains or anything on, or just, it's a Lexus, let's take it up there and see what it can
I figured if it could go 110 miles an hour, it could get me up a ski hill.
Those two are complete different applications.
But the best part is, so after the week or 2 weeks, I'm trying to remember, this is a lot of years ago now, I gave mine back properly, really nice, thank you for the experience, I really enjoyed it, I'm certainly going to talk highly about the Lexus, right? Anthony, because he needed a car, refused to give it back.
Oh, are you serious?
And they didn't know what to do. He kept saying, yeah, I'll drop it off Tuesday, I'll drop it off next Thursday, and he just kept stretching it to the point that they had to repossess the Lexus.
How long did he go over? A lot of time.
I would have to ask him, but it wasn't a few days. It wasn't just a few days. It was enough where everyone was getting uncomfortable. Like, dude, what are you doing? This is a big sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever.
But then it worked because then he's like, look, I liked it so much, I refused to give it back. And they had to repossess it.
Wow, that's I guess no press is bad press, right? That's the old saying.
I would say that. You got any good Carl stories that you could tell there?
Well, I will say one of the funnest ones I had with Carl is it was right after we recorded the mini pod, the IPA pod, and we were at the hotel where you're gonna stay here in town, and we got done and we go, okay, we were just gonna go out for a couple of beers. Let's go out and get some beers and we'll call it good. And it was myself and Eric Greenspan, Chef Eric Greenspan, Chef Bo McMillan, Troy. I'm trying to blank on Troy's last name. Anyway, a bunch of food writers, food critics, food judges from Food Network, and so we all went out and we stumbled into this bar. Bar was blasting music; it was dead inside, and we just walk in and there was no bartender, no waitress. It's like they forgot to lock the door and left the music on. So here we go. We go charging in, and they came from in back. They were in another room, and they said, "Oh, yeah, what do you guys need?" And Carl goes, "Let's get a bottle of Jim Beam," and they brought it up. And I don't know how this happened, but Carl the owner happened to be there, and he started talking to him. And within 15 minutes, the owner looks at the bartender and says, "Hey, whatever these guys want, it's all on the house." And he hustled this guy, and we sat there for 2-3 hours. I think we drank a full bottle of Jameson, a full bottle of Jim Beam, plus more, and I couldn't tell you how many beers. And we were drinking like the world was coming to an end. And we walk out of there, we all throw money down for tip for the bartenders, and there's a picture that encapsulates the night where Carl is singing karaoke, he's got a beer in his hand, he's singing Bob Seger, and Modern Family is on TV in the back, and he's in this leather jacket with all this fringe. I don't know where he got it from, but it was just it's one of those nights that you just we stumbled into fun. Alfred just doing a simple podcast, and then that was one of the infamous I'll be home in a little bit, honey, to where are you? Why aren't you home yet? And so time just runs away.
I mean, that describes Carl perfectly too, because I never had a boring day with the guy. I'm not a big partier like some of his other friends, but I mean, every day I hung with the guy was just it was just an adventure. Always.
And it doesn't matter if you had an hour with him or 10 hours with him. He brought it every time, and it was always so much fun. And it just, there's nothing could be said. You always had a great time.
Yeah.
I walked away laughing my ass off every time.
Yeah, I was in Rochester with him. We did a couple trips up there, and I was pushing it up there and trying to party and hang with him a little more than usual. And Brother Weeze is hanging with us and stuff, and we're drinking tequila and all that. And then all of a sudden, it'd be 1 a.m. We got to get up for radio. We had to be at the studio, let's say 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm like, all right, if I tap out now, I get 4 or 5 hours sleep. And, I'll be sort of fresh for the radio. And Carl would, just humor me and everybody else. He's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to call it early, too. And we'd go to the hotel. And then the next day, I would check Twitter or Instagram, whatever. And he went in one door at the hotel, out the back door, and then found another bar for more experiences. I'm trying to remember, but I think it was Hotel California. He's in some terrible dive bar up there in Rochester, just singing Hotel California with a crackhead.
That sounds about right.
Having the time of his life.
Absolutely. Always singing, always dancing.
Yes.
And that was just, I can't, every time he'd be in the car, he would go Twitter Live, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and would every time music, full blast, singing and dancing just in the front seat. And I'm gonna miss that. That's definitely something. That's a hard one.
Did you let him drive ever?
Never.
You're a smart man. Because driving to Rochester, it's 6-7 hours, so we would take turns, and we all knew he was on social media a lot. He could not stop. So we would be going 60, 65, 70 miles an hour on a highway, and he would just be checking his Twitter and writing people back. And I'm like, Carl, can't that wait?
Oh, that was
it was so scary. And then he would have one hand with his Twitter, just answering everybody back, and then the other hand that should have been on the wheel is trying to find the perfect fucking driving song.
That's him. That's him to a T. That's every time. And then the other part that was always funny about him is that I'd go meet him somewhere, and he'd go, okay, hey, we're gonna do this, and he wouldn't give me a chance to say no. He goes, hold my phone, say this, and and he all of a sudden he would just come up with these hilarious little sketches and great reactions, and it was, you're laughing on video because it's happening new to me too, and it's not rehearsed, but in his head he went over it 5 times and made that thing hilarious.
He's gonna be missed. This one really sucks.
It's I've had my mentors pass and parents pass and all those things, and they were all difficult in their own way, but when it's coming, it's a punch you can absorb. But when you don't know it's coming, it's just such a gut check, and it hits really hard. And this one hit harder than most, and I'm finding it incredibly tough to recover from that punch.
Well, as you're saying this, you got a tear in your eye that's dripping down your face.
I didn't think you'd notice. I thought maybe jet lag Opie would notice that.
I'm so uncomfortable right now. You had the one tear just flowing down your cheek, like you were standing in garbage on the side of the road. That's an old school reference. I'm not even going to explain it.
Native American. I remember.
Okay. Oh, you do. All right. Oh, all right. Good.
Not to be morbid, I'm the exact age as Carl. I was 44.
Yeah. I don't mean to make fun, but I'm just maybe just to. I don't know.
I'll reel it back.
No. I really do like real emotion, but I also like pointing out someone's misery.
Thank you.
Hey, can we stop in San Quentin?
Sure. I'll drop you off.
By the way, I noticed the Waze, it just keeps going up and up. We really have another hour and 15 minutes drive?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I want to talk about beers before we end this podcast. I was begging Carl to do the Fruity Beers podcast with you, and he just refused and said he would never do that.
God, I don't... For someone who, who appreciated liquor and beer, I'm surprised that he'd say that. because there wasn't very many beers I'd put in front of me he would refuse. Let's put it that way. But yeah, the fruity beer thing wasn't his thing. But of all the years that I sold beer, so I've been in the beer industry for 24 years. There's a lot of beers. I mean, my worst experience ever was on an incentive trip to Vegas with Beck's. You know how much Beck's you have to drink in Las Vegas? They're putting it down, and it's just like, oh my God, I'm having the hardest time with this.
I hate Beck's.
Yeah, well,
not a fan.
Yeah, I was paying the bartender to put other beer in my beer bottle just so I could look like I was drinking Beck's. I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. But I've had a lot of bad beers over the years, but I can get down with the fruit beers. There's a lot of them I like.
Well, a couple things, because you're a beer expert for real. Wow, this guy almost sideswiped you. Wow.
He's checking his Twitter.
Yeah, no kidding. Name your 5 worst beers.
Beck's is on that list for sure. I think Heineken Dark is one of the worst beers I've ever had, and you don't see it on the shelves anymore. It's not out there anymore. They just quit doing it.
I'll be honest, I don't like Heineken that much either.
Yeah, Heineken's short behind Beck's. The only thing that'll give Heineken credit on is if you have it on draft versus bottle. The bottle has the skunkiness to it. Yeah. The draft doesn't. And on draft, it's a good beer. It's a great beer. I like a lot of the grandpa beers that you guys refer to, but the problem I have with the Budweisers and the Bud Lights and all those is that because they're an adjunct lager, they're made with rice, not corn, and the rice gives me a screaming headache from the first sip. So if you put a Bud Red in front of me, the first sip, it's headache city. And I've tested it with blind taste test, not knowing what beer is poured into a glass, and it still gives me a headache every time. Other than that, I would say, oh God, some of the newer craft beers. I really don't like hazy beers. Hazy IPAs to me are horrible.
What's a hazy IPA?
So when you go through the brewing process, the last step is filtration. And what they decided to do is skip the filtration because you get a lot of complexity in the appearance. So you get a lot of, it almost looks like a Hefeweizen or a wheat beer. So you get a lot of cloudiness. And then they started adding like a lactose to it. So it had almost like properties of a really light milkshake. And so you have this beer flavor, but you have this real thick viscosity of beer, of liquid, and it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't match. It's commonly known as like a New England style IPA versus a West Coast IPA, but all of a sudden everyone they started adding more to it to make it thicker and make it more, and it's fruity and it's juicy and it's all these things, but it just doesn't align. It doesn't taste like a beer to me. It's not refreshing, and the flavors are often muted, and I struggle with that category. But everyone's in love with it right now.
Oh, really? The other genre that people are really into is those sour beers.
Yeah, sours are tough.
They're rough, right?
Yeah, well, it depends. It depends. Because right now, a kettle sour or just a real light, approachable sour or like a tart beer is really easy to drink. It's like lemonade, right? It's a little puckering at first, but as your palate gets used to it, then it works out and it's really good and you can appreciate it. The darker sours are really, really, really tough, and you've got such strong alcohol, usually a lot of booziness that goes with it. It's people struggle with it, and if you start off with one of those, it ruins your palate for any other sours. But I like sour beers. I just can't drink them. I can't drink multiple of them. That's the hard part.
And what's the reasoning behind the alcohol content going way, way up in beers lately? Because at that point, why wouldn't you just drink some of the hard liquors and the bourbons and the whiskeys and whatnot?
Well, about 8 years ago, the way that to try a new brand, when you were a new brewery going to the market, people weren't buying 6-packs, they were buying the 22-ounce bottles. And what they just figured out is with a 22-ounce bottle, people saw a value because you had a ramped up alcohol. So you had higher alcohol than, say, a 4% or 5% lager on the shelf. You've got this pale ale or an IPA with, it's a kind of a one-stop shop. It's like a $2 price point, maybe $3 or $4 on the high end, and you're able to pack a punch with one beer, and people feel like, oh, it's just one. I don't have to go and explain to my wife that I'm drinking 5 out of this 6-pack every night. So people started doing that, and then the pendulum swung of this high alcohol, high bitterness, and then they realized that rate of sale was declining. So yeah, they had a higher price point per beer, but now they're not selling as much of it. So then they kind of swung the pendulum the other way, and they reduced alcohol, reduced bitterness, and also kept that craft or that high-end price point, and we're making more money.
Wow, you are an expert at this shit, Ben.
I like to think so.
He goes, I like to think so.
By the way, I put you're a reference on the application I have to go on a TV show as a beer connoisseur.
All right, that sounds good to me. I was joking about the fruity beers, but there are, I like the Leinenkugels.
Oh yeah, Leinenkugel makes great. Those are the Shandy line of beers. Is a great thing. It's such a light summer beer. They've turned it into a year-round beer selection, but really that was meant to be, a summer beer where you mix a light lager with a little bit of like 7-Up,
yeah,
or or essentially a Radler. Radler and Shandy they're cousins, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it gives you a little bit of sweetness, you get a little bit of fruit with it, but it goes down really easy, and they're low alcohol, so you're not going to get sideways by drinking 2 of them.
See, I'll never turn all these people around at this point, because as soon as I said I like fruity beers, they think I like a lot of fruitiness. And when I have like a grapefruit beer, I still want to taste the beer.
Yeah, that's people it's the.
Because the Schaffen, help me out, the Schaffenhofers.
There's.
The grapefruit Schaffenhofer, I believe it's called.
Yeah,
that tastes like grapefruit soda. It does not taste like beer to me. I enjoy them on a really hot summer day when I'm fishing. You could drink a couple of those, but I miss the taste of actual beer. That's why I've leaned toward the Leinenkugels. Their grapefruit beer is my favorite grapefruit beer out there right now.
It's a great one. And you have to remember, too, Carl will give you a hard time about liking fruity beers. He was drinking White Claws like crazy.
Oh, you beat me to it.
I was going to say, there's really, White Claws just took that same category and made it low carb, and all of a sudden, it's taken over the world.
And my beer distributor, I said this, I think it was on the last podcast I did with Carl. I beat the crap out of him about the White Claws because he finally admitted, all right, I like the White Claws. I'm like, you can't make fun of me anymore. That's a sorority drink. At the beer distributor that we go to, you see the sorority girls coming in with the sweat, their letters on a sweatshirt, just buying up all the White Claws.
Well, it's one of those things. I've had my fair share as well, but when I was out camping with another big group of people, and we were out in Lodi, which is kind of the armpit of Northern California. And it was 102, and we're sitting poolside, and all the kids are running around having fun. And I'm sitting at the pool, and it was me and a bunch of all the other moms of the kids. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I thought some of the dads were coming too, no big deal. And one of the moms, hey, have a White Claw. I said, I don't really like them, but okay, I'll try them, So I'm drinking that. This is pretty good on a hot day. Had another one. I think I had about 30 of them over the course of a few hours because they go down like water.
Yeah.
So I can see, it's, again, for him, that was a lubricant, right? It was an easy chaser. It's something that goes down easy, has a decent flavor. I can see why. People are falling in love with it.
Well, it's interesting. Carl, always said that because I would try to, just order us, beers or whatever. He's like, I hate beer. I'm like, how do you hate beer? You're in a bar almost every day. And he explained that to me as well, that he used the beer to lubricate his throat for the Jim Beam shots, which he really enjoyed.
Yes, he did. I've had more Jim Beam in the last month than I've said I had my entire life. But the only negative, I'll say this about White Claw real quick. The only downside to people buying White Claw over their standard beers is White Claw is conditioning people to transfer from beer into alcohol, into the spirit world. And then, behind the scenes, beer and spirits and wine constantly fight for shelf space and for floor space in stores and all those things. So now you've basically given everybody a canned cocktail saying it's like a vodka soda with some small fruit in it. So when they run out of that and they can't get it, or the price point is that where it's so high that vodka is going to be an easier option, they're going to migrate into a vodka soda. They're not going to go backwards into beer.
Oh, that's smart. Well, I was a big wine drinker, and then I couldn't stand the hangovers anymore because the wine will give you brutal hangovers. You know, you get a little older, and then those hangovers, you just simply don't recover quick enough. So then I blew off wine finally. I don't like it at all anymore, and I was kind of deep into some expensive bottles there for a while, and went back to beer.
The old Duckhorn, those are the ones you were buying?
Why do people laugh at that? It's a good wine.
I know it's a great wine. Because of the show, I listened to the show, so I know what you were buying.
It's Duckhorn. I liked Silver Oak. I liked Opus. Stag's Leap I didn't like as much as others, but...
No, there's great wines, especially in our area, too. I'm spoiled. You know, it's just one of those things. Where I live in Santa Rosa, you know, we're 45 minutes from the beach. We are from the ocean. We're you know, I have 10 wineries within 5 minutes of my house. Jeez. And another 50, you know, up and down the Alexander Valley. And I can't tell you the last time I went wine tasting. I couldn't tell you the last time I went out to the coast for fun. It's you know, it's one of those things that you're just surrounded by it, and you just don't participate in it. But the wine hangovers are crazy. And the only time I usually drink wine is when I'm at weddings or during the holidays.
Yeah. But I understand the whole, you know, not doing the wine tasting, because I live in New York City and I've never been to the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
I know.
I thought by now you would have had some sort of radio shock jock antics at one of those two.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I climbed to the top of the Chrysler Building. I climbed to the top of the spire at the Chrysler Building. That's impressive. And shock jockey.
Well, it's something. I still haven't even been to New York, and that's the biggest thing. And that's, you know, to bring it back to Carl again. I've been trying. You know, hey, I gotta get out there. I gotta save my nickels, and you know, I gotta figure out a time. And you know, come on, you stay on my couch and all that. And I've been trying to like finagle it to have work pay for it. I've got a conference or I've got something I could go do. And literally the week after I found out he had passed, I get a message. They're like, hey, there's a conference coming up. We want you to go to New York. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, of all the dumb luck, of all the times, you know, I should have done it earlier.
Well, when you come to New York, you come hang out with us, man. We'll go to Get Parts. We'll do another podcast, drink some beers, maybe do edibles if Matt Farrer's around. I think he really likes his pot.
I think he must.
Yeah.
If he carries tins that melt in his car, he likes it.
It's funny because it's bittersweet for me as well, because I always wanted to go up to Santa Rosa. Guys invited me, sort of. You know, those sort of invites. Not a definite day or anything.
When someone says call me, you don't have their phone number. Wait, how can I call you?
I'm busted his balls, but it would be like, you know, hey, why don't you come out here with the family?
You want to try calling them right now?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's call Guy Fieri. We're on our way to Santa Rosa for another Carl memorial, but it is bittersweet because I wanted to do this trip with Carl and hang out with the whole. I don't think
I told him you're coming. No guy
this time around. So yeah, it's weird to be out here to, you know, celebrate Carl's life, but I got to finally hang out with you, Ben Perry.
Yeah, I mean, that's you can't be mad at all the lives that he's bringing together. You know, it's one of those things. Like, people are making friendships and connections that, you know, that hopefully will last a lifetime. We'll have that bond.
I got a whole new group of friends because of Carl, and they're solid people. There's not a dud in the bunch. I got to be honest with you.
Well, we're only an hour in, so give me.
I didn't say we're friends yet. I didn't say we're friends yet.
That's me. Oh, sorry.
This is a long ride to Santa Rosa. By the way, we still got another hour. I might turn this off and take a nap.
You very well could.
All right, so we're on our way to Santa Rosa. I really appreciate Ben Perry picking me up. You certainly didn't have to do this, and I think you've been in the car all day just to get me, is what I'm starting to realize now that I see that we're stuck in horrendous traffic and that it's going to take 2.5 hours to get up to Santa Rosa, even though you told me it would be an hour. I should have done the layover and then taken the other plane right to Santa Rosa. I believe you could do that, right?
Yeah, you could have. But, you know, We saved you a couple coins by going to San Francisco. It's all good. It's all in the name of Carl. I'm okay with it.
And your wife's gonna hate me. Where were you?
Well, like I said, I gotta go to my other job
Tonight?
Oh yeah, tonight. I bartend tonight.
Oh my God, we'll run into you later tonight. All right, I think we should then turn this off, right?
Let's wrap it, yeah.
Let's wrap this shit up, man. All right. Hopefully we get to do a lot of podcasting up here. I mean, the people will find out quickly if we did or didn't when they get to the next episode. If it's me back in New York, then you know that some shit went down.
Well, there's going to be, that fun thing is there's a lot of personalities, people who are Food Network personalities, other TV, other celebrities that'll be there, but there's also a lot of just some good people in the area who really miss Carl and are going to come to this. It's going to be fun. I mean, I can tell you, fun for all the wrong reasons, but we'll walk away. I mean, I'd say there's going to be some amazing stories. If our sides aren't sore by the end of the weekend, then we haven't done him service. Yeah,
and you're going to help me out with the rest of the podcast. Yeah, I look forward to it. A lot of people have reached out to me from the Food Network and elsewhere, and they all just want to tell, a Carl story. So hopefully we'll get a lot of them on the podcast.
Absolutely.
With that, I'm going to turn this off and fall asleep while Ben Perry drives another, where are we at? Another hour? Another hour to Santa Rosa here in Northern California. All right. I have Ruizing shirts and hats on my website, OpieRadio.com. And, of course, the haters think I'm making money off dead Carl right now. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't need T-shirt money. I made a deal with Carl a long time ago. We're trying to figure out where the money goes. We're thinking maybe that Operation Barbecue. He really, really liked that. Right, Ben?
Yeah, that was near and dear to him. I mean, that's a great program. They came out, where we had our fires 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, just a week or so ago. We had this horrific fires. Operation Barbecue came out and served tons of people and made a difference. They made a difference up in, here a year after that, up in, we had some fires in Clear Lake and things like that, which is another area north of us. Just a great, unbelievable, and unfortunately, he's busy nonstop throughout the year, but it's obviously for a good cause, and I think it's an amazing cause. And Carl obviously was very close to Stan Hayes and the guys at Operation Barbecue.
Yeah, so we'll probably throw some money that way, and then I think Guy Fieri's working on a scholarship fund. Yep. I know La Cabana's trying to work on a scholarship fund, so we're just kind of waiting for which one is gonna end up panning out. So, but I don't need T-shirt money. But also, a lot of people are buying the Ruizing stuff just to keep Carl's name alive. So it's kind of cool to see. All right, with that, we'll see you on the next episode of the OpieRadio podcast.
How do I follow that?
I'm so punch drunk.
Boo, 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 boo. OpieRadio. Boo, 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 boo. Boom, 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 boom. Boo, 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 boo.